Today, older GPUs get a new feature. We have final pricing for Intel's upcoming CPU, and Nvidia's 5090 is set to be a monster, and there's lots to go over here with this, which is why I'm doing a talking head video. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, resizable bar is coming to more GPUs. For those who still don't fully understand what resizable bar is, it's basically where the CPU can use the GPU's memory, and it's basically able to intelligently determine which of the two needs what, and this ultimately ends up in better performance in gaming as well as really just more reliable performance. So it's a really nice feature to have. Well, as you can see right here, now for one, a lot of people sort of thought that smart access memory, which is ultimately the first resizable bar that came out by AMD, and a lot of people early on sort of thought that AMD was really the only ones who could do this because they're the only ones who make CPUs and GPUs. Well, Intel does now, but back then that wasn't the case. Anyway, you get the point. But come to find out, this is actually a feature within the PCI Express spec. And because of that, Nvidia, as they state, was quick to adopt their graphics card to support this technology by offering a patch for GeForce RTX 30 series, and motherboard makers followed suit by enabling this feature on more motherboards. The tool called Rebar UEFI can patch the UEFI firmware and enable support for this feature on an even broader spectrum of motherboards. But there is an issue. So they basically did a patch for the 30 series cards, then for the 40 series cards, the feature was out at launch, but the 20 series as well as 16 series Turing cards never got the feature. And that's where today's story comes in. As you can see right here, it says modders have now come up with a new solution for GeForce GTX 1600 and RTX 20 series based on Turing architecture. The proposed solution does not work with the GTX 10 series based on Pascal though. Those who are still using Turing GPUs are in luck, as the new solution seems pretty straightforward and simple to use. Basically, modders have added this feature and you can get it on GitHub. Though as always with mods, be careful and make sure you know what you're doing. And next up for today, we finally get pricing on Intel's upcoming 14900KS CPU. But before I get too deep into that, I've always been someone who prefers hands-on learning. And it's no wonder, because interactive learning was proven to be 6 times more effective than lectures. Which is why today's sponsor is the best interactive teacher, Brilliant, the online learning platform that was built to do exactly that in the STEM field. With thousands of lessons in programming, AI, data analysis, and more, there's something for everyone. Whether learning how large language models work, programming in Python, and pretty much anything you can think of. But unlike other platforms, Brilliant's courses are crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Caltech, Duke, Google, Microsoft, and more, so you know you're being taught the right stuff. And today's the day to try it out, because Brilliant is offering my viewers a 30-day free trial when you visit brilliant.org/gamermeld. Plus, when you visit brilliant.org/gamermeld, you'll get 20% off their premium membership for life. Once again, that's brilliant.org/gamermeld, or use the QR code on screen. Now back to the story. As you can see right here, Intel's 14900KS pricing has been confirmed to be $749. And the way that they're able to confirm this is because it was actually listed on Micro Center. And Micro Center, of course, is going to be way more likely to have the accurate final price. Either way, as it says, this price is identical to what the company asked for the previous generation 13900KS and 12900KS. So the price hasn't gone up, which means you are effectively getting more performance for the same price. But as I've gone over before with the 14900KS, you're not getting the same kind of boost that you got with the 12900KS or 13900KS. It's really not going to be much of a difference at all. And we're already hearing some wild power draw numbers, of course, these being the highest, kind of peak numbers that we would see, but we're talking upwards of 400 plus watts. So it's definitely going to be a massive power hog and not give you much more performance. Of course, this is the special edition version, so you wouldn't expect to get the greatest price to performance, but still, it's literally has the same box as the regular series, and you're getting the least jump in performance. And like I've said, pretty much every time one of these special editions come out, it's not worth it. And this time, it's doubly not worth it. So unless you have money burning a hole in your pocket, I would definitely not suggest getting this. Though of course we do want to wait for reviews, but given the specs that we've seen come out so far, it is not looking good. And lastly for today, with Nvidia's RTX 5000 series getting closer and closer, we just got a ton of new leaks on specs. And most all of these are coming from resident leaker Kopite7Kimi, which, if you remember, he is a leaker that's definitely proven himself. He's been very accurate in the past, especially when it comes to Nvidia GPUs. So starting things off, as you can see right here, it says, I think GB203 is half of GB202, just like the GB102 and GB100, but I don't know if GB202 has a multi-chip package. So yeah, the most important part here is this right here, and just to really quickly make sure everyone's on the same page, don't forget that the graphics cards you see on shelves, the 4090, 4080, all of those are made up of GPUs, and those GPUs have their own names. For example, the 4090 uses the 8102 and the 4080 uses the 8103, AD being Ada Lovelace, which is the architecture that they're built on. And usually the GPU with the 100 moniker is basically the one made for AI, the big giant accelerator. But this time with Blackwell, the 100 series, all of the 100 series are the accelerators, the professional chips, things like that, while the gaming chips are the 200 series. So before, the accelerator was the 100 chip, then the gaming card started at 102, then 103, 104, etc. While this time, the whole of the 100 series is accelerators, but then there's a 200 that are the gaming cards, meaning that GB202 should be the 4090 and GB203, well, I'll get to that in just a second. But as you can see, they're saying, I think GB203 is half of GB202. And that means that what we're talking here is half the cores. And if Nvidia does this like they did with the 40 series, that would mean the GB202 is the 5090 and the 203 would be the 5080, which means once again, we could have a massive gulf between the highest end Nvidia card and the next highest end Nvidia card. As you can see with the 8102, we have 18,432. This is the 40 series cards, 18,432 cores, and that makes up the 4090. But then 8103, over 800 cores less at 10,240, makes up the 4080 and 4080 Super. Now there is a chance that the GB202 is the 5090 and then the 5080 is just a cut down GB202. But if they do it like they did before, the 5090 is just going to be an absolute monster yet again. But that's not really why I'm calling it a monster here today. That is our next little story. If you remember a little while back, Kopite7Kimi actually stated that combined with multiple sources, now this was a long while ago, almost a year ago, July 27, 2023, he states that he can confirm that the gaming flagship of Ada Next, which we now know as Blackwell, will have a 512-bit memory bus. Well, since then, he's sort of backed off of that with March 8th saying, I still fantasize about 512-bit, but GB20X is not much different from AD10X, meaning the 50 series won't be much different from the 40 series. But just today, he corrected that. He said, I think my persistence is correct. The difference is that GB202 is 512-bit. So he's actually doubling down on that 512-bit rumor. And if that's true, that will definitely make the 5090 a beast of a GPU, because compare that to the 4090, we're looking at 384-bit now to 512-bit memory bus. And that should mean that the 5090 will likely come with more memory, almost certainly come with more memory. We're talking right around 32 gigabytes plus. So a huge jump in memory capacity, but also, if you remember just recently, GDDR7, the specs for it were confirmed by the JEDEC, and lots of companies are reporting on this, but We're also hearing that next gen we could be looking at 28 gigabit per second memory. Now we know that GDDR7 already has 32 gigabit per second, but we've seen Nvidia do this before. When GDDR6 came out, there were 16 gigabit per second modules, but Nvidia went with 14. So this isn't too big of a surprise, but the simple fact is that 28 is still something like a 30%, 33%, I believe it is, increase over the 4090. So not only will it have more memory, a bigger memory bus, it'll also have faster memory. Basically, Nvidia's next-gen 5090 GPU is set to be one beast of a card. But that also begs the question, when we're talking a 512-bit memory bus, that is not cheap. Just how expensive is this thing gonna be? So while that does it for today, how much do you think Nvidia's upcoming 5090 is set to be? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to try out Brilliant at brilliant.org/gamermelt. And as always, have a great day.